Okay, so we're recording now. So that's good. And we're gonna go ahead and just, I'm gonna share my screen and I'll show you guys how to log in. If you haven't logged in before, just sort of, you can just sort of follow along. I think most of you have, so it shouldn't be anything too new. Okay. All right, so you're probably seeing my email. I'll close that. And we'll go here. So the website that you're going to go to shop is cat.yourcloudlibrary.com. After this, I'll send you our handout that sort of details, it sort of walks you through the steps of using it the first time. It's a little bit outdated, but the website on there is still accurate. What you do to log in is still accurate, and the search functions are still accurate. The only thing that will be slightly different from that handout is what cart you use, but we'll go over that now. So when you get there, this is what it looks like, and you will log in with your email and password. So everybody on the call right now should have a login for the cloud library. I know Erica and Hope didn't, or Hope had an older one, so I updated theirs. I know Emily does. Sarah, do you have a login? Okay, perfect. So the first time you log in, you'll just use your email address and password. If you've never logged in before, it's not a big deal, but you just click forgot password, and then they'll send you an email and you'll click a link and you'll reset your password. So if you ever can't log in, just do that. I'm going to log in with my sort of like training account because it'll show more what you will see. Okay, let's see if I can move this guy. There we go. So when you log in, this is the landing page that you'll see. Now, most of the time, the first thing we have you do is set up a cart if you're shopping for your school library or your public library. I actually already have carts set up for grant purchases, so you do not have to do that. When we get to the carts tab, I'll show you how to do it because I don't think Hope has a cart set up yet. It's really easy. We just have you set up a cart under your school library name. So Hope, you would set up a cart that says Salem High School, just because it's easier for me on the back end to look through the carts. So the first thing that you'll see is this featured shelves tab. This is a great place to go when you've like searched for everything that you thought we were missing, and now you're like, we should just spend more money, so let's buy more books to add. So they have all these lists up here that you can choose from. New releases, YA top new releases, children's and juveniles. That's going to show you anything that's coming out in the next week. So you can see, like, for adult fiction, these are the ones that came out last week. And this is what has been released this week. You can also add to these tabs. So you'll notice I have a young adult tab. You probably won't when you first log in, but if you want to add more tabs here, you just click on this add favorite list, and then you can check whatever it is that you want to add onto your homepage. So you might want to add children, you might want to add juvenile, you might want to add diverse books. It's totally up to you. It's whatever you're interested in. I'm not going to add anything right now. On this page, it always loads the slowest. When you're looking at these shelves, if you're going to purchase anything from them, what I like to do, you can go through it like this and look at all those pretty book covers and then like click on something to get more information. But what I like to do is go to list view. And this is basically what any list that you look at in the Cloud Library Shopping tool is going to look like. So any search result that you do is going to wind up in a list like this. I also, the first list that I pull up of results, I automatically have it show me 100 because I don't like to have to click through pages. And it will stay that way now the whole time that we're searching. So it doesn't matter if you're on a list that you actually want to buy from. When you do that, you can just set it that way, and then it will stay that way the whole time that you're logged in. And then you can just go through the list and pick stuff that you want to add to your cart. Before we do that, though, I'm going to show you the search tab because I think that's probably what you guys will want to use more. So this is the search tab. And when you get there, they call this the criteria builder. You can basically search kind of any way you want. The best way to do it is to just play with it. But you can see, you can search by keyword, you can search by title, you can search by author. If you're interested in a certain category, like I know somebody put in the little selector survey that you thought like we should make the young adult sci-fi collection a little bit more robust. You can do that here. You just go, you can pick either juvenile, juvenile non, you can pick both actually. I'll just do it real quick. We'll go to young adult fiction. This category list that you'll see is the same categories that you would find like in any bookstore. They don't use library categories, they use BISAC categories. But if you've shopped anywhere, you're familiar with that. And I'll go down and click just so we can see science fiction. If you see a category that has this little caret next to it, that means you can even be more, you can add in more criteria if you like. So in sci-fi for young adults and juveniles, they only have, I think juvenile actually, you can't open it up. They only have alien contact and space opera. So you might have to go to other categories if there's other things that you think would fall in sci-fi that maybe aren't right there. So you just check mark them and then you can go to another tab and check mark. And once you're done, oh, my little, oops. There we go. You just hit search. I think it's a search. I can't see it because my Zoom is in the way. Oh no, did it delete them?
Yeah, it said clear all.
Oh, I hit the wrong thing.
The one on the right says close.
I'm like, all I can see is the red button.
Oh no, yeah, don't
okay.
red.
So, oh, okay, I remember, sorry. And then you actually just close it and that is already selected for you. So let me go back here. Okay, so I just checked what I wanted to check. And then I can just close this. And you can see here, it's green. So I know I checked some categories and then I hit search or just hit enter. And your search results will come up. So this should look better than clearing them all like I did before. With your results lists, you can also sort them any way that you want. So especially now because there's a lot of different languages in the Cloud Library catalog, you can say, I only want to see items in English. If any of you think we need more items in Spanish, which we probably do, you can also limit to that or any other language. So you may notice sometimes when you get a results list, it'll be like, I think in one of the searches I'll do later, like the first language that comes up is Catalan, and you have to scroll through some of those to get to what you're actually looking for. So that's just something to be aware of. But you can sort it any way you want. So you may want to sort by title. You may want to sort, I like to sort, if I'm doing a category search like this, I usually like to sort by publication date because I'm usually interested in buying newer stuff first, just because it's more popular usually. You can kind of sort it any way you want. And I'm not gonna make this one load for a super long time. You will notice you can order, there are pre-sale titles available. And we do order pre-sale titles all the time. The only thing I would say with the grant is if it's not something that's gonna be released in the next couple months, I probably wouldn't put it in the cart. And the only reason I say that is because the price of these items can change the day that they get released. So that's something that we sort of track. It's not going to change a lot typically. But if we bought like every single one of these pre-sale items and they all changed in price by $10 to $20, then we've spent way more than we originally thought we did. And we don't know it until $6.29 when they come out or whatever. So that's just something to be aware of. And it's something I'll actually look at when I go through the carts at the end. So if you do put something in there that's pre-sale that we maybe don't want to buy right away, don't worry about it because I'll probably filter it out. I'm going to clear this. Another way that you can search, of course, is by title. So if there's certain titles that you just think you've never seen in the Cloud Library collection, you might want to search that way to see if they show up, or you can search by author. So I was gonna just do a quick search for Jason Reynolds, just to point out a couple other things here. And then we'll put something in our cart so we can go over that. Okay, so Jason Reynolds is a popular YA author. You guys all know that. So because I'm looking for an author, I probably would change my results to be by title. I do that a lot just so I can see the ebook and the e-audiobook copy side by side. So I can see, like, if we only have the e-audio and we need the ebook, I can see that right away. Or if we only have the ebook and we need the e-audio, I can see that right away. So one of the things that's nice about shopping for Cloud Library is it's going to tell you what we already have in the collection. And as far as shopping for this grant goes, you don't really have to worry about getting multiple copies, because that's something I'm kind of watching too. So if we have really popular YA or juvenile fiction items that the holds lists are getting out of control on, we can use a little bit of this grant funding to make it so the holds list goes away. One of our goals is to really try to make the money stretch. So we're not going to buy like 20 copies of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. We actually already had 20 or 10 before the grant. But if the holds list is really long and we want to use a little bit of this funding to do that, we can. Or if you know your English class has a list of 5 titles that they have your 8th graders pick from, it's fine if we have, 5 copies of each of those 5 titles. So although we don't want to buy a ton of multiple copies, it's okay to buy some. So if that's something that you know is a need in your school, that's fine. So you don't have to worry about if we own one. It's okay to put another one in the cart if it's something that you think that we need. So just keep that in mind. And it'll tell you everything about the title too. So it'll show you, we've loaned it this many times. There's one that's checked out right now. If there's another one in the cart, you'll see that. So it'll show you, like, maybe Emily searched for Jason Reynolds and then 2 hours later, Hope searched for Jason Reynolds. Hope you'll see right away if Emily put one of these in her cart. You can also sort by what we own. And I do that sometimes just so I can get, because I know we own a lot of Jason Reynolds titles, especially recent ones or ones that are award winners. So I will sometimes do that just so that I can get down to the stuff that we don't own. So like here, we don't own When I Was the Greatest. I can actually see that we did own it at one time, but it's one of those ones that has a silly publisher restriction. But I'll go ahead and put that in our cart just so we can see, because we should probably get another copy, especially because it looks like somebody somewhere along the line has suggested that we purchase it again. So when you purchase something, or when you want to put something in the cart, you're just going to check whatever books it is that you want to. You can check the whole list. You can just check 1 or 2, and then you're going to add them to a cart. Now, normally the default is going to be whatever cart is under your username. This is where, for the grant, I want you to do something slightly different. So there's a little caret here that'll show you other carts that you have access to. And the other carts that you have access to are these community carts. For the most part, you're going to ignore them. These are auto carts that I can't delete. I wish that I could, because I find them confusing, but they just kind of exist there. But you'll see we have a grant juvenile cart and we have a grant young adult cart. As you're able, it's easier for me, just for reporting purposes, if we can sort of split YA and juvenile apart. I know that there's a lot of overlap and publishers don't always mark it the right way. So just use your best judgment. If you notice that it says young adult and you actually think it's a juvenile title, you can put it in the juvenile cart. That's fine. Or if it lists, a lot of times publishers will list everything to try to get more readers, especially with like popular young adult titles. So it may say adult, young adult, juvenile. You guys know what your kids read and what grades they're in and what you would consider sort of like lower end fiction for your elementary and middle school students, and what you would consider higher end fiction for your high school students, and your older kids, or your kids that are more that like more challenging things to read. So you can kind of just use your best judgment. Don't get super hung up on it's got to be in the right cart, because that's just for numbers. We're trying to split them up, but I understand that there's a lot of overlap.
Leslie, just really quickly. So are
Sure.
we looking for books? Is there an age range? Like, I'm sorry, I'm high school, so obviously I'll probably mostly look for high school, but is there an age range of what we should be looking for?
Anything K, I mean, really pre-K through 12th grade. So and really even that you can expand upon, because we said anything that supports youth services.
Right.
And so I know like a lot of our high schoolers read adult nonfiction, or need adult nonfiction, or want to read college prep books, or need test prep books that might be considered adult. But you can just put those in the YA grant cart. And it's okay that you work in a high school and you might like mostly high school stuff, because we have other school librarians here who will be looking for juvenile stuff.
Great. That was my next question. I wasn't sure how diverse of age groups our people were. So
I was gonna ask the same thing, because I'm on the lower end of the spectrum. So
right.
I wanted to make sure. We
should have a good balance. And to be honest, as even just me shopping this month that I've done the little bit so far, I thought it was going to be hard, but it's actually been pretty, like, just randomly shopping from different lists. My totals have come out pretty equal. So I think we've bought more juvenile titles so far than YA, but YA is also more expensive generally. And we're not trying to be 50-50, because we really just want to fill gaps in our collection. So you don't get hung up on I'm picking too much YA. If your thing is, I think we need more books for my 9th and 10th graders, and they read this in English, put those books in the YA cart, and don't worry about the children's stuff, because someone else is probably buying things that they think we need as for curriculum support for 2nd to 4th graders.
Awesome. Okay, thanks.
So on the other end, you're wanting more chapter books and things than picture books, correct? Or did I just think that in my head?
Basically in the grant application, we said that we would be focused on selecting diverse authors. So we didn't put any age range there. And then to fill gaps in the collection. And so that can include anything from curriculum support to early readers, which could also be picture books, to more robust nonfiction offerings, because that's something that has just been a hard collection to develop in general for YA and kids. Because I know our nonfiction is pretty small. So really, no. I mean, if we don't have newer good picture books by authors that are well known, then we need them. So it doesn't necessarily have to be chapter books or early readers, or I mean, we just want to be as diverse as we can and fill as many, I guess, holes as we can. Does that answer your question, kind of?
Yeah.
We purposely left it wide in our description. I'm going to go ahead and put this in my cart because I keep talking. And so once you put it in your cart, you'll use this carrot to select, and I'm going to put it in the YA cart because it says it's YA. And once you select your cart, then you do actually have to see how it's still highlighted blue and it still has the check mark. You do actually have to click put it in my cart, and it should tell us that it did. But it's been a little slow today, so we'll see. There it is. So right there, it'll tell you it's been added. So really for the criteria builder, it's pretty, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty clunky. And before everybody had logged in, I was telling Erica and Emily that this is actually totally gonna change. Probably very soon. It was supposed to happen this month, and I'm talking to our rep on Thursday to find when they're updating the interface for sure, because obviously it's gotten delayed. So it's possible we may be having another meeting, or I may be sending you training materials and that you'll log in one day and it'll look different. I should have like a heads up that I can give you before that happens, but just keep that in mind. So this is pretty clunky, but it is going to be better, and it should be better soon from what I've seen of what the new search is going to look like. So really just play with this, because like I said, it is kind of clunky, but you really can get pretty granular searches. You can search by author and then just look for e-audiobooks, because I think somebody put in the comments it would be great if we had more e-audiobooks for these grades. So if you click MP3, that's an e-audiobook. EPUB and PDF are ebooks. There are also read alouds, which are ebooks that do both. That's something fairly new to the Cloud Library Collection, but they do exist. I may have to find out what the exact keywords are you can use to search for them. I want to say it was just read alike. But if anybody's interested in that, you can let me know and I can tell you how to find them if this doesn't work. Yeah, I don't think that worked, because they usually have a special symbol on them that tells you, or it says like right across the top, read aloud. And you know, that's one that does both. So let me clear that out. You're probably not, you can use price range if you want to, but since it's grant funds and it's not your money that you're spending, I probably wouldn't. You don't really need to worry about spending too much. If something is like, I mean, because you may come across items that are $100 or more per copy. You might think twice about those, but if it's something we need, it's something we need, and that's what the grant funding's for. So like I said, we do kind of want to stretch our money as far as we can. But I don't necessarily want you to be cognizant of price, like, or worried about price all the time.
Are we worried about the books that are going to disappear on us, with the publishers? You know,
yes and no. So the problem is we'd rather not buy items that have those restrictions on them. So like this one has the 2 years after purchase, which is actually good. I'd much rather have something for 2 years and be able to circuit as many times as I can in those 2 years.
rather than the ones that are 13 times and.
Right, or rather than one that's gonna be gone in a year, or sometimes they do like a year or 26 checkouts. But it's like, well, I might go through 26 checkouts, especially if somebody checks it out, you know, and reads it in 2 days and returns it. If it's a real quick read, I might go through 26 checkouts in a few months or 6 months when I could have had it for a year if I hadn't gone. So it is something to be aware of, but on the other hand, it's impossible not to, because enough of the publishers do it that we are going to need items that have those restrictions. So far when I've been shopping, especially when it comes to like nonfiction or curriculum support, Ingram is really good. They don't have any restrictions. If I see something that's like 2 and one has a restriction and one doesn't, and they've both been recently published and it's a publisher I trust, I'm probably going to buy the one that doesn't have the restriction first, at least. But yeah, so we don't want them all to expire in 2 years or a year because we want the collection to keep going. But I can't tell you never to buy them, because that would be impossible, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to show you real quick under the carts tab. This is where you'll see all the carts. So there's like when you get to the carts tab, it's going to show you what's in the cart that you're working with. So we're working with the Grant YA cart, and that's under community carts. If you use a cart to buy items for your school, you're probably used to this. That would be under your username, and then you would have those carts down here. I will tell you that the community carts, anybody who uses CAT can see, but nobody does anything with them, so it's not really a concern. It's something we've tried a couple times to like have community carts available for people to shop from, but I think since we've clearly labeled those, and honestly not hardly anybody pays attention to them, we should be fine. Once you have items in the cart, like this, you might have 10, 20, whatever. You might say, what do I do now? You actually don't do anything. You just leave them there and you can log out or close your browser window. They will stay in the cart until I come in and look at them and press the purchase button. So that's just another way that I can come in and see what's in there. I can write down how much we're spending and notate that, because obviously we need that for reporting. I can write down what, how many YA titles we bought, how many juvenile titles we bought. If Hope accidentally put 5 copies of a title in there, and then Beth also put 5 copies of a title in there, I can say, well, maybe we don't need 10 copies, maybe we only need 7, or whatever, and just kind of just go through and make sure everything looks on the up and up as far as that goes. I'm not going to be going through and saying like, who picked this title? We definitely don't need it. It's more just for record keeping and purchasing purposes, just to make sure that we're not buying, I guess, more than we need. Everything will stay in that cart until I go in and press the purchase button, unless I don't want you guys to feel like you have to work on putting items in carts like every day or every week or everything like that. I'm probably only going to purchase from these carts once a month, like towards the end of the month. Because again, we have $10,000 to spend this month, so we need some time to do it. And also, I just think that's easier than, because you guys are busy. So I don't want you thinking like, oh, I have to devote like an hour every week putting items in this cart. If you don't have an hour every week, then do it when you have time. So it'll just stay in there and it'll be fine until I purchase it. So you don't have to worry about that, but it does feel weird when you put things into a cart and then you just leave them. And I understand that. So that's kind of all you need to know about shopping for the cloud library. The main things are going to this website, catyourcloudlibrary.com. Making sure the items that you want to buy for the grant are in either the grant juvenile or the grant YA cart. If you were to leave them in your library cart, honestly, since I'm in there every week looking at everybody's carts, I would probably notice and be like, hey, did you want to use grant funds to buy these? So it's probably not like the end of the world, but just try to remember to do that. And really, yeah, I mean, the goal is to support youth services. And those were the two bullet points that I read. You were basically word for word what we put in the grant application. So focus on selecting diverse authors, filling gaps in the collection, which includes curriculum support, more robust nonfiction offerings, things for reluctant readers. Basically, whatever you felt like we've been lacking, put it in a cart and we're going to buy it, because you guys are the experts, because you're working in those libraries. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I've got a couple. The first one, I noticed that it said street date on some of those books. What does that mean?
You should only see those on items that are available for us to order before they're published.
Okay. Like a pre-order then?
Yes. So, well, actually, maybe that's not true. Hang on, let me look real quick. Maybe you do see it on every item. Yeah, you do. So the street date is just the date that it was published.
Maybe like the paper or hardback version?
No.
No. Okay.
So that can be the tricky thing, especially with audiobooks. You may come across stuff that you're like, this was published 5 years ago. Why does it say street date January 2020? And that's because that's when it was published in e-audio format.
Okay.
For the Cloud Library collection. And that can be different. So like even newer ebooks and audiobooks can be published in print before the ebook version, but also for libraries. Sometimes they're published for the general public before they're technically published for library purchase.
Okay.
That can be a little tricky too, but for the most part, it's the publication date.
Okay. The other question I had was about purchasing for like with my money, my library money, because I've never done that before. Right. If I put it into Salem High School cart and I press the big purchase button, then does IHLS bill me for those books?
Yeah, so you'll do the same thing that you're doing for the grant. You won't actually press a purchase button. You'll just leave it in your
Okay.
cart.
Okay.
And then those I purchase actually twice a week now. It was
Mhm.
during when we really had high demand, it was 3 times a week. I still do purchase 3 times a week, but I only purchase from carts twice. And then as soon as I purchase it, I send you like a confirmation email that says how much you spent, what you bought, and has a list of the titles. And you should have money to spend also, because you get to spend 60% of your member fee. So I will send you an email after this.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
So
So
it
that's
doesn't
why.
it doesn't come out of my school's budget.
No,
Like
it's not a ton. So like if your member fee is $250, 60% of $250 is not much. But yeah, you get to choose titles and we don't bill you for those at all. And then when you go over that amount, we send you a bill and that bill comes like the month after you purchase. So if you purchase something in December, like say you did have extra budget, you said, I have $50 extra, I want to spend it on these 2 titles. You would just purchase them in, let's say you purchased them in December, and then I would send you an invoice at the beginning of January that said, you purchased these items, they cost $50, right?
Mhm.
Here a check.
I'm so excited.
So I'll send you more information about that after this.
Yeah, that would be great because I'd like to utilize that more now that I know I've got some dollar bills to spend.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you do, because you wouldn't have spent anything this year yet because we start.
Yeah, and it wasn't until last year that I really knew what Cloud Library was.
Right.
At this library. So yeah, I didn't know that. Cool. Oh, I had another question. Sorry.
Sure.
I was curious if maybe like in a month or two, if we have till June to spend all of the grant money,
Right.
then maybe in a month or two, would you be able to give us like a highlight reel of just we've purchased a lot of maybe science fiction.
Yes.
So maybe put your focus on another genre.
Yes.
Something like that. Like,
yes.
I don't want it to be too complicated for you or anybody.
That's a good point. And
But
I
like
guess
a general.
those are reports that are pretty easy for me to run.
Okay. Like a big picture.
Cloud Library. Like I can run a purchase history report and like separate it out by genre or by age group or whatever. So
Okay.
that's the most sent, and so then I can send that to you. That is not a problem. That's a really good idea. And maybe I'll at the end of each month, or maybe at the beginning of each month, because if I purchase towards the end of the month, then the reporting will catch up by then. So you'll kind of know at the start of the month, like, oh, this month maybe we should focus on this. That's a great idea. Okay, anything else? And like, we've never done this before, so I'm excited to do it because it's sort of like when I have libraries purchase for us. So we'll see how it works. If it turns out that you guys are like filling the carts like within a couple weeks, then maybe we'll start purchasing every couple weeks, and I'll say like, make sure you have anything you want to buy with the grant money in the carts by this date. But really it doesn't have, I mean, it's not quite as important as your school carts because it's not your budget money. And also keeping track of it is slightly easier. So like, even if I purchase what's in the cart and then you guys put stuff in it the next day, that's not a big deal because it's still going to get purchased next time. Whereas sometimes with like your personal library budgets, I buy it this week and you're like, what? I wasn't done and I need the bill. I wasn't done filling my cart and I need the bill by this date and I was going to spend this much more money. So it's a little easier to roll over as well. Anything else?
I'm going to log off, but I'll watch again if there's anything major, but I got to go to class. So nice to see you all.
Perfect. And you guys can also email me anytime with questions. I mean, that's what I'm here for. Especially if you have like more in-depth questions about how to search. Or just like if you're like, I'm searching and I swore we had all of this series. And when I'm searching for it, I can't find it. And I know we don't have numbers 8, 9, and 10 in the series. I can either find out why they're not appearing, because that does happen sometimes. or I can help you search for them or find them and we can get them added. So if you're really having trouble finding something that you think should be there, let me know that too, because sometimes it can be tricky because the publisher metadata is not always the greatest. And sometimes it's the case of like, especially with series, if it was like an indie publisher that got bought by a bigger publisher, and then the bigger publisher said, oh, we're not going to sell those to libraries anymore. Like sometimes we get 1, 2, 3, and then we can't get 4, 5, 6. And then we can get 7 and 8, but we get them really late. So it's just, there's weird stuff like that, but I can usually find out why at least we can't get it if we can't get it. Okay, so you can start putting stuff in carts anytime you want. I think that the target date that I'll kind of watch it as you guys are putting stuff in it this month, because I'm logged into CAT like all the time anyways. And then let me just look at my calendar. The target date that and I'll send this to you guys afterwards too, that I'll probably plan to purchase, I'll say Monday, January 25th. Just because if we haven't spent close to $10,000 by then, I'm probably gonna like spend more money that week to sort of get us at least close to that goal point, just because I don't want us to get to the end and then have to spend a whole bunch. And I also want us to try to keep buying like, current content. So I don't want us to spend too much in January and then not be able to buy anything new in March, which I don't think we will, but just so we can kind of keep track of that. Any other questions? Yay, great. Yeah, so again, put the stuff in there that you think we need. And don't really worry too much about price or publisher restrictions, just worry about them a little bit. If you wouldn't want to buy it with your own money because you think it's a ripoff, then that's fine. You can look at the publisher restrictions that way. All right. I know you guys are busy, so because I see actually lots of you are in your libraries today. So
thanks for the opportunity. It'll be fun. It's nice to spend other people's money.
I know, it's always a good time, right?
Yeah.
And I'll keep emailing you guys through the whole thing and keeping you guys up to date. And I will look at sending you those reports that Hope suggested, because that's a great idea. Okay.
Cool. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Thanks.